This is the story of Elon Musk, not just the billionaire, not just the CEO, but the man obsessed with one question: what if humanity could become a multi-planetary species? When people talk about dreaming big, they usually mean building a successful company, buying a house, or achieving financial freedom. But once in a while, someone comes along whose dreams are so large that they stretch beyond borders, beyond industries, beyond Earth itself. Before the rockets, before the electric cars, before the headlines and controversies, there was a quiet, introverted child growing up in Pretoria, South Africa. Elon Musk was born in 1971 in South Africa. As a child, he was intensely curious. While other kids were playing outside, he was often lost in books, science fiction, physics, engineering, and philosophy. He once said that books were his escape and his education. Stories like The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy shaped the way he thought about existence and possibility, but childhood wasn't easy. He was shy, often bullied, and deeply introspective. Those early challenges seemed to push him further into his own mind, into a world of ideas. Instead of shrinking, his imagination expanded. At just 12 years old, he created and sold a simple video game called Blaster. It wasn't revolutionary, but it showed something important: he wasn't just a dreamer. He was a builder. In his late teens, Musk moved to Canada, and later to the United States, the land where many technological revolutions had begun. He studied physics and economics at the University of Pennsylvania. Physics taught him how the universe works. Economics taught him how incentives shape human behavior, and somewhere during that time, he started thinking about the future. Not 5 years ahead, but centuries ahead. In the 1990s, the internet was exploding. Most people saw websites and emails. Musk saw transformation. He co-founded Zip2, a company that helped newspapers move online. It was eventually sold for nearly $300 million. Suddenly, he was wealthy in his 20s. For many, that would have been the finish line. For Musk, it was only the starting point. He went on to co-found X.com, which later became PayPal. When PayPal was sold to eBay for $1.5 billion, Musk walked away with hundreds of millions of dollars. At this point, he could have retired comfortably. Instead, he made a decision that seemed reckless to many. He decided to invest most of his fortune into industries known for destroying fortunes: rockets and electric cars. Let's pause here. Rockets are traditionally built by governments. It's a capital-intensive, highly regulated, high-risk industry. Electric cars had been attempted for decades and repeatedly failed in the mainstream market. Both industries were considered graveyards for private investors. But Musk wasn't asking, what is safe? He was asking, what is necessary? In 2002, he founded SpaceX, formerly known as Space Exploration Technologies Corporation. The goal wasn't just to launch satellites. The long-term mission was far more ambitious: make life multi-planetary. At the time, the idea sounded like science fiction. NASA had already retired the Apollo missions. Mars was something we saw in documentaries, not business plans. Early SpaceX launches failed. Rockets exploded. Money burned. Critics laughed. Headlines questioned whether the company would survive. By 2008, SpaceX was on the edge of collapse. 3 launches had failed. The company had enough money for perhaps one more attempt. Musk had also invested heavily in Tesla, which was itself struggling to survive. He later admitted that he was close to personal bankruptcy, but the 4th launch succeeded. It was a turning point. Soon after, SpaceX secured a contract with NASA. For the first time, a private company would deliver cargo to the International Space Station. It was historic, but Musk wasn't satisfied with just reaching orbit. He wanted to fundamentally change the economics of space. Traditionally, rockets were single-use. They launched once and fell into the ocean or burned up in the atmosphere. Imagine throwing away an airplane after every flight. That's what space travel looked like. SpaceX set out to build reusable rockets. Many experts doubted it could be done affordably. Yet in 2015, the Falcon 9 rocket made history by landing vertically back on Earth after launch. It looked like something out of a movie, but it was real. Reusable rockets dramatically lowered the cost of space access. That wasn't just a technological breakthrough, it was a strategic one. Lower costs mean more launches. More launches mean more opportunities, satellites, research, exploration, and eventually, Mars. While SpaceX was redefining space, Tesla was reshaping transportation. When Musk joined Tesla Motors, now known as Tesla, electric vehicles were considered slow, unattractive, and impractical. The common belief was that sustainability meant compromise. Tesla challenged that assumption. The Roadster proved electric cars could be fast. The Model S proved they could be luxurious. The Model 3 aimed to make them accessible to a broader market, but Tesla's mission was bigger than cars. It was about accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy, solar roofs, battery storage, gigafactories. The idea was simple but bold: reduce humanity's dependence on fossil fuels and slow climate change. This is where Musk's thinking becomes clear. SpaceX is about expanding human life beyond Earth. Tesla is about preserving life on Earth. Two sides of the same philosophy. Protect the future of humanity. Of course, the journey hasn't been smooth. Tesla faced production delays, financial pressure, public skepticism. SpaceX missions carry risk every time they launch. Musk himself has been a polarizing figure, admired by some, criticized by others, but regardless of opinions, the scale of ambition is undeniable. Consider the Starship program, SpaceX's fully reusable spacecraft designed for deep space missions. Starship is intended to carry humans to the Moon and eventually Mars. It's the largest and most powerful rocket system ever developed. The vision, a self-sustaining city on Mars. Now, let's slow down and think about that. For most of human history, survival meant staying within known lands. Exploration meant crossing oceans. The idea of leaving Earth entirely is a leap unlike any before. Why Mars? Because it's one of the most Earth-like planets in our solar system. It has seasons. It has polar ice caps. It once had flowing water. While the environment is harsh, it's not impossible. Musk has often described Mars as a backup plan for civilization, a way to ensure that a single catastrophe doesn't wipe out humanity. Some argue we should focus entirely on fixing Earth first. Others argue that exploration has always driven progress. History shows that ambitious exploration, from sailing ships to space shuttles, often leads to unexpected technological breakthroughs that benefit everyone. Reusable rockets, advanced batteries, electric drivetrains. These innovations don't stay confined to one company. They influence entire industries. But Musk's journey isn't just about technology, it's about mindset. He often speaks about first principles thinking, breaking problems down to their fundamental truths and reasoning upward from there. Instead of asking, how has this always been done? He asks, what do physics and logic allow? For example, rockets are expensive. But why? Because materials, manufacturing, and operations cost a certain amount. If you can redesign the process from scratch, perhaps you can cut costs dramatically. It sounds simple, but it requires courage, the willingness to challenge assumptions that entire industries accept as fixed. Another key trait is risk tolerance. Most entrepreneurs diversify their risk. Musk concentrated his wealth into a few high-stakes ventures. That strategy could have ended his career. Instead, it amplified his impact. There's also resilience. Public failures are magnified when you're leading rocket launches or publicly traded companies. Yet setbacks didn't stop the long-term vision, and that might be the most important lesson of all. Long-term thinking. Quarterly earnings matter. Headlines matter. But Musk's projects often operate on timelines measured in decades. Colonizing Mars isn't a 5-year plan, it's a generational vision, and whether or not humanity builds cities on Mars within our lifetime. The pursuit itself reshapes what we believe is possible. Today, SpaceX regularly launches astronauts to orbit. Tesla has become one of the most influential electric vehicle companies in the world. Starlink, SpaceX's satellite internet constellation, aims to provide global internet coverage, especially in remote areas. Each venture ties back to a central idea: expand capability, reduce vulnerability, and push boundaries. Of course, no story about Elon Musk would be complete without acknowledging complexity. Leadership at such scale invites scrutiny. Decisions are debated. Strategies are questioned. In a world connected by social media, every statement can spark global reaction. But stepping back from daily noise, one theme remains consistent: a refusal to think small. Dreaming beyond Earth is not just about Mars, it's about refusing to let current limitations define future possibilities. It's about asking questions that sound unreasonable, and then working backward until they become engineering problems. It's about betting on the belief that humanity's story doesn't end on one planet. Imagine a future where rockets launch as routinely as airplanes. Where cities on Earth are powered primarily by sustainable energy. Where children grow up knowing that traveling to another planet is not fantasy,